All right, let's go ahead and get started. This morning, we're going to talk about strategies for building a successful farm area. So for those of you I haven't met, I'm Greg Blackall. I'm one of the broker managers here at Florida Luxury. And I actually really love farming. Now, the caveat to that is I don't get my hands dirty. I don't plant gardens. That's not the kind of farming we're talking about today. We're talking about farming in your real estate business. So some of the objectives and purposes for today, we're going to review the benefits of developing a real estate farm as one of your business strategies, to learn how to determine a farm area that will provide you income and success, create a strategic action plan for successfully building a farm area, and then learning the ways to cultivate that farm and become prominent. So how many of you guys have thought about kind of creating a farm area and really finding an area? Okay, so we've got a few, good. And I know in a couple of classes that we've taught in the past, we've kind of touched on this and kind of gone into it at a very high level. With this, we're going to kind of get into some of the meat and potatoes of what is a farm, how do you work it, and what are some of the pros and cons to it. Now, some of the benefits for building your farm area, it builds your name recognition. It earns you listings, captures buyers, feeds you referrals. You're the one with the most extensive knowledge. It establishes a stable base for your business. And then over time, the property owners become your circle. And then you, in essence, and this is probably the least important for me, but for some agents, they really like this, you become your own mini celebrity. Now, let's just talk about the farm area, for example. You know, it may be as small as a neighborhood or parts of a neighborhood. It might be two different neighborhoods that are side by side. Most agents that I know typically have two farm areas. They have one that I call the bread and butter. So it's that 200 or 150 to 250 price range where you're going to have a lot of volume. Things that are going to turn over quickly that you can keep going. The other might be something that is specific. So it might be waterfront, or it might be golf course communities. It might be whatever it is that you really want to hone in on. But what inevitably happens, so let's say we're talking about $700,000 golf course homes. Well, it might take you 4 months or 5 months to get one of those closed. And in the same time, in this bread and butter community, you might have 5 closings. Now, your commission check on that $800,000-$900,000 house would be great. But personally, me, I don't want to go 4 months without getting a commission check. Even if it is a really good commission check, I don't want to have to go that long. So it really just comes down to what your business is, what you want to do, and how you want to work it. Now, the great thing, you capture buyers, get referrals, get your listings. All of these things are important as we're talking about ways to really build our business. Now, farming is a great way to create stability. So agents who actively pursue and build solid farm areas in their business close 70% of their transactions from this lead source specifically. So it becomes predictable, right? If I'm working a farm and I've done all the legwork and the grunt work and everything I need to do to really solidify myself in my farm, it becomes a very consistent and predictable source of revenue for me. 70%. So 2 out of 3 basically are going to come just from that. Now, you're always going to have other lead sources. You're going to know, my kid's friend is moving, or, my neighbor, or whatever. But having that sort of predictability in your business really sets you up for success. Now, what do you need to know before deciding to build a farm area? Keep in mind that building a farm is not a short-term plan. It's not something that I'm going to walk in, I'm going to work it for 90 days, and then I'm going to go, okay, cool, I'm done. Farming is a very long-term, consistent, grinded out kind of strategy. It must be tended to daily. If you don't water it, it dies. So think of it like an actual farm. If I plant all the seed, but I never water it, I never plow it, I never, tend the crop, do I have anything growing? Probably not. And then it requires a consistent financial investment. Unlike some of the others, farming is not a free source. So we'll just throw that out there. It's going to take a pretty consistent financial investment. And depending on the size and type of farm that you have, it's not an inconsequential amount of money. When I was doing farming back earlier on in my business, I was spending about $400 to $500 a month on farming. So it took me some time before I started seeing some returns. So, I'm stroking a $500 check, a $500 check, a $500 check. I don't have any closings yet. Another $500 check. And then all of a sudden I got 3. And it's like, okay, cool. Now I see it. But it took about 6 or 7 months before I really started to see that return. And there's a few things now. If I knew now what I knew then, I could have probably expedited that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So the biggest thing with a farm area is just to consider areas that you're already familiar with. So if you're already familiar with, let's say, the community you live in, that might be a really good place to start. It may not be. I live in Foxwood here in Trinity, and there's 9 or 10 realtors that live in there that all actively farm that community. 2 or 3 of them are actually in this office. So for me, I'm like, well, okay, this is not going to be a good farm for me because it's pretty well saturated. So you want to start with somewhere that you're familiar. You don't want to just throw a dart and pick a neighborhood across town that you know nothing about, because you really have to become an expert. Right.
What do you do if you want to farm an area, another FLR agent is farming? Do you contact them?
Oh. Yeah. I mean, so you want to factor this in when you're looking into it, but I mean, at the end of the day, you want to find an area where there's not a ton of agents, but even if there is another Florida luxury agent, it doesn't really matter, because the way that you do things versus the way they do things may end up being completely different. And the way I look at it is there's always enough business. Friendly competition, that's what it is.
There's only 200 of us. You're gonna run it.
Exactly. There's over 300 of us now. Yeah, so the chances that you're going to find a farm area that doesn't have another Florida luxury agent is unlikely. But competition's a good thing. I mean, at the end of the day, I was looking at the statistics. Florida has the highest saturation of realtors to population. So 1 in 117 people in the state of Florida have a real estate license. That's the next highest one is California at 1 in 138. That's insanity. Now, keep in mind, this is the total population of Florida: children, retirees, the whole gambit. So if you're talking about over the age of 18, it's probably more like 1 in 60. 1 in 60 people have a real estate license. There's going to be competition. That's just the name of the game.
Is that only including current real estate license, or does it include inactives as well?
I think it's current.
Okay.
So these are actively licensed real estate agents in the state of Florida. So as with all things, we talk about the 80-20 rule. There's only about 20% of us that are doing 80% of the business out there. So a lot of these are 1 deal a year, 2 deal a year kind of people that, are not full-time real estate agents, but still, you've got a real estate license, you're technically competition for me. So yeah, I don't get too worried. I mean, there's business to go around. So if there's another FLR agent, okay, cool. Let's work together and we'll both saturate the market. Who cares? And then pick an area that has personal appeal. So if I am petrified of the water, I don't want to go in the ocean, I'm going to put my toe in the water and I'm going to get eaten by a shark, I'm probably not the best person to market that property, right? Because the majority of people that I talk to are going to love that. Well, we automatically have a disconnect. I have never played 18 holes of golf in my life. My wife got me lessons. I had 6 lessons. I went out with the pro. We played 7 holes, lightning struck, and I've never played since. It just wasn't me. It's just not what I wanted to do. So I'm probably not the best person to go work golf course communities, because it's the only sport where you hit the ball and then you go chase it yourself. I really just don't understand the concept. So find something that appeals to you, something that makes sense for you. If you personally have an interest in those areas or those types of homes, you're more excited about the efforts to make that grow, right? So if you're excited about something, people can tell. If you're like, oh, cool, let's go look at this golf course community. Oh, awesome. Do you play? Nope. I think it's the stupidest game on earth. Okay, well, that rapport is gone, so we're probably not going to work well together. But find something that you can share, because again, people have to know you, have to like you, and have to trust you. Well, if you guys don't share any common interests whatsoever, it's going to be really hard to find those areas that they're going to like you, because that's kind of the foundation for it. Now, since purchasing a home is largely an emotional decision, pay attention to that, emotional decision. Buyers will respond to your enthusiasm. So we always say that people decide emotionally and then justify rationally. So they're going to make that initial, oh, I love this home. That's an emotional decision. Then becomes is this home a good financial investment for me? Is this close enough to my work? Is this close enough to my kids' school? Is this whatever, whatever? That emotion, that falling in love, that's all emotion. That's what they decide with first. And then they justify with ration. So you need to be able to connect to that emotion with them to say, okay, cool, let's get excited about this together. And then I'm going to be able to walk you through that emotion to help justify, to make sure that this is in fact the right home for you. And then it needs to have well-defined boundaries. So it'll help with your marketing impact and costs if your farm area is well-defined. So if it's community boundaries, or if you're working one section of a community, it is clearly defined that you only want those streets or whatever. If it's like, oh, I want those houses on this street and those houses on this street, and that's when it gets a little difficult. And then your marketing mailers can be delivered by every door direct mail, which is EDDM. Are you guys familiar with this? Okay, so we're going to talk about EDDM a little bit more in just a minute. You want to make sure that it's the right size. So you need to make sure that your area is large enough to ensure that you have decent turnover, but small enough that you can build a name for yourself without going broke. So keep in mind, the size of your marketing sphere, let's say it's 75 cents per mailer that you send. Well, if you've got 1,000 homes that you're sending to, you just spent $750 on one mailer. So that's where we typically say a farm area of 250 to 500 homes is recommended. If it's smaller than 250, your turnover is probably not going to be enough. If homes only sell, let's say there's 50 homes in this community and they sell 2 a year. Well, you're going to spend a lot of time in marketing, and at most you're going to get 2 listings a year. It's not a good investment. So we want to kind of mitigate the cost versus the size, and find that kind of that Goldilocks area. Not too big, not too small, not too hot, not too cold, not too expensive, not too cheap. You want that perfect little Goldilocks area right in the middle. And then you want to calculate your income opportunity. So you have to make sure that the area has enough sales activity to make it worthwhile. In an ideal world, you want to find a farm area that has high sale prices, high turnover, and low competition. If you find this, market the crap out of it and never let it go. Because it's that Goldilocks idea. And, I've yet to find one that's perfect. It's that average sales price of $350,000 or $280,000, whatever it is. No competition in there, and houses are selling every 2 months. I haven't found one, but if you do, more power to you. Now, determine your average sales price. So you want to use the MLS or RPR to draw an area around your farm, and you want to look at 2 to 3 years of sold homes to determine the average sales price. Why do we want to use more than just the last 3 to 6 months?
You determine market trends.
Okay. What else do we have in Florida they don't necessarily have in other parts of the country? Seasonal flux.
Yeah.
We've got snowbirds that come and go. So the snowbirds are typically buying July, August, September because they want to be here in October. So they're looking to buy in that late summer when the rest of our back to school group, well, they're like, no, I want to be in the house before kids go back to school in August or September. Okay, well, then we get the snowbirds right after them. But if you're only marketing to one group, come September 1st, if you're selling to young families, most of those sales start dropping off. So it's things to pay attention to. If you're just looking at let's say a 55 and up community, and you only looked at the last 3 months, you may have had very small sales. But if you looked at 3 months from now, the sales may have skyrocketed at that period in previous years. So you don't want your scope to be too narrow. You want to be able to have a big enough look to go, oh, okay, well, most of the homes in this community occurred between July 15th and October 15th. Well, I'm going to spend more of my marketing time or marketing money during that time where I have the biggest appeal rather than in some of the slower periods of the year or whatever. So with this information, you can determine what the average commission you would earn from each closed sale. For average purposes, we average 0.0275, so 2.75% commission. There's some that'll be at 3, some that'll be at 2.5. I would actually say when I do it, I use 0.26. So I'm assuming at this point that it's a 2.5% commission, because almost every agent out there is doing cut rate commissions, and that's kind of what it is. So when I'm trying to factor for budgets, I factor a 2.6% commission. That's my personal, but you can do it any way you want. Now, you want to research the turnover rate. So again, if you want to make sales happen, you need to make sure that there's turnover. An ideal turnover rate would be at least 6%. So what this means is you look at the total number of properties in the community, and then how many of those properties sell in a 12-month period. If at least 6% of the homes in there turn over every year, then it's a good farm. Most neighborhoods that I've looked at and the ones that I farm have between an 8 and 10% turnover. That's kind of my benchmark. 6% is great, and it'd be awesome if I was the only agent working in that neighborhood and I could get all 6%. But in all likelihood, I'm looking at being probably at best one of 2. So then you take that number and cut it in half. So if I'm at 8 to 10, I'm really at 4 to 5%, which means, you know, I can live with that. So divide the number of homes in your farm area by the total number of homes sold in the last 12 months to get your turnover rate. And then review the competition. This is probably, if I had to leave you with one thing, this would be something that I would highly, highly emphasize. Review your competition. What is your competition doing when they're farming that community? And is it working? Imitation is the highest form of flattery. So if they're doing something and it's working well, maybe you start doing something similar. Or maybe this is a community you live in and you see that you constantly get stuff from this one agent and you're like, oh, it's so annoying. Why are you sending me stuff? You know, if that doesn't work, then that's something else that you want to know. So if one agent already dominates the area, getting a piece of the pie could be a bit of an uphill battle. However, if there are a variety of agents closing in on the area, then there's room for you to earn a prominent agent position. Now, with this is my double-edged sword. If you have one agent that has managed to dominate a farm and almost nobody else gets any business in there, I'm just cocky enough, I might go for it. Because I know that I've got tools, I've got things behind me that I could probably unseat the king or queen, right? I just might do it. Now, it's not great because I'm going to have to work really, really hard to disrupt status quo. And that's difficult for people because they go, oh, well, she's got every listing in here. I'm going to call her. I actually have a few things. One of them that I've used when I was farming, because I actually found this small 100 community neighborhood that just had like 18% turnover. And there was one agent that had like 82% of the listings in there. So I went in and I said, okay, well, you know, I get that she has a ton of listings in here, but this becomes my question. If I have a buyer and I only have 1 or 2 listings in here, don't you think that I'm going to be more incentivized to sell your home than if I had 14 in here? And I'm going to get both sides of the commission, whether I sell any of these 14, right? And they were like, oh, I didn't think about that. Because again, it's all a numbers game. So cool, I've got 2 listings in here and I'm going to work my butt off to sell those 2 listings. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kill myself to sell those 2 listings. She's got 14. You think she's killing herself to sell any of the 14? Probably not. Now, whether she is or not is completely irrelevant. Excuse me, because now I put that doubt in their head. So there's different strategies. And again, depending on what you're trying to get into, the way you would approach it just may be a little bit different. Go ahead.
I have just a quick comment.
Yes.
the neighborhood, I live in one of those over 55
Okay.
communities. And 2 years ago, there was one company that dominated. And I don't know what happened to her. Well, I kind of know what happened to her, but she's not in there. So I walked the neighborhood last week, and there's 7 different,
Real estate signs.
8 different real estate signs.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, hey. So, see, that doesn't scare me. So to me, I think the gal from a couple years ago, I mean, she dug her own grave with some things that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's going to be, I call those bread and butter neighborhoods.
Yep. Yeah, if there's 8 different agents that have listings in there at any time, go for it.
Yeah.
It is prime picking because half of those are not farming that neighborhood. They just happen to know that one person
That's right.
that they got that listing for.
That's exactly right. You know, it's funny because I did real estate in South Carolina. And talking about golf, don't ask me how this happened. I ended up selling horse properties.
Okay.
And I don't know jack about horses, okay? But I met someone in one of my farm areas, and she knew this girl, and she bought a horse farm.
And then,
her daddy bought a horse farm.
Yep.
You know, so to me, those are the things that you have to look at the big picture. This can open, it can slam in your face, or it can open.
Now, if you were petrified of horses, would that have necessarily been a great thing for you?
No, because I didn't go near the horses. What I needed to do was, do you have enough acreage?
Right. You had to understand what they were looking for and understand. Right.
Can they build a pole barn?
Exactly.
You know.
So sometimes with things like that, it's about understanding all of these proximal things. What is the zoning require? What is, blah, blah, blah. So that becomes being the expert in those types of homes. And you're absolutely right. Sometimes we just kind of fall into them. Yeah, and I've had a couple of those. I'm
a city girl. Horses, get out.
I ended up doing a lot of VA loans, VA buyers. And I grew up in a military house. My dad's retired Navy. My brother was in the Army. I shared something with them, but I never went military. That was just not the life I was taking. But because we had something there, I had to get very, very good at learning what the VA program entailed, what the house had to be in order to qualify for VA. I had to start being able to find red flags before we got to them. So part of me working with VA wasn't necessarily a specific neighborhood, but it was a specific type of home. It had to be under a certain price point. It had to be, couldn't have missing plates.
More of a charge of that.
Right.
Okay.
So for me, that's kind of how that changed a little bit. But ultimately, you have to position yourself as the expert to your farm area. Now, if there are a variety of agents closing in, and we kind of talked about that, there's room for you to jump in. Now, we're going to look at 3 different farm areas here. In farm area 1, it's got 150 homes. The cost to market would be $2,100. The average sales price is $300,000. The average commission is $9,000 based on average sales price $300. They didn't actually do it at 2.75. This isn't mine. The number of sales in the last 12 months, 15. So your turnover rate was 10%. 150 homes, 15 sold in 12 months, 10%. Pretty easy math. Income potential, excuse me, 15 homes with an average commission of $9,000 is $135,000. Average days on the market, 43 days, and number of active listings, 13, right? Farm area 2, 200 homes, so a little bit more cost to market, $2,800. The sales price is higher. We're at $350,000, so your commissions would be higher, obviously. It's got about the same number of sales. It's got an 8% turnover rate, so income potential of about $168,000. 39 days on the market and 3 active listings. So, okay, in a community of 200 homes, it has 3 active listings. And then farm area 3, same thing. 250 homes, 3,500 to market, average sales price of $400, average commission of $12,000, 12 sales in the last 12 months, so about 1 a month. 5% turnover rate, income potential of about $144,000, but it takes 61 days on average days on market, and there's 7 listings. Okay, So if we were looking at these 3 farm areas, which one would jump out to you to be probably the one you'd go after? The middle one, okay. What do you guys think?
More opportunity.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I'd probably go for the first one.
Okay.
I like the turnover rate and
So in an ideal world, I actually tend to agree with you. When I was looking at these 3, I would probably go after farm area 2. There's one thought here. So turnover rate of 10.85. So farm area 3 just doesn't have enough turnover for me. And even if I'm getting all 5%, which is unlikely, there's just not enough there. Additionally, the active number of listings. So this is the only part of farm area 2 that scares me a little bit, is there's only 3 active listings in a community of 200 homes. So yes, we have 16 sales in the last 12 months, but we only have 3 on the market right now. So is there maybe something going on with this community that people are just not wanting to sell right now? Things like that. So in this one, they would actually use farm area 1. So it'll probably be your best bet because your income potential may be a little bit lower. It has a higher turnover rate. So again, thinking about it from a perspective of, well, let's assume that I'm one of 2, or even if I'm, the main one, I want this 13 listings and 15 sold in the last 12 months, but 13 are on the market right now. So maybe this is actually an upward trend, that there's going to be more turnover in this community. It has a much higher turnover rate and more current listings on the market, which means you have more room to get a foothold. Now, here's my caveat. If we only sold 15 homes in the last 12 months and there's already 13 on the market, what's going on in this community? Why is everybody, creating a mass exodus right now? So that's where it's, again, this one wasn't mine. This is something that was created. I just grabbed this slideshow. So for me, I would probably actually go with farm area 2 and just get more listings.
the one thing I would actually want to, okay, I didn't see the average day of the market because that was the question. If there's 13 listings, they're going to be up 43 days.
Right. So, those are the kinds of things that we would factor in. But you guys have any questions about anything we've talked about so far?
One of the things that I want to say about farming, it is great to have that farm area.
Mm-hmm.
But I never discounted someone coming along and saying,
Absolutely not.
I like that $500,000 neighborhood.
Sure. And we're actually going to talk about that a little bit as we move into the next section. How to cultivate your new farm area. Now, once you've chosen a farm, so what are some of the thought processes that are going to go into how we're picking our farm? Something that we have interest in, something that's going to have good turnover, all the things that we just talked about. So once we've gone through, actually, before I move on, do you think it's a good idea for you guys to drive through a potential farm area if you're not familiar with it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because on paper, I've picked an area that went, oh yeah, I want that. And then I drove through the community and went, oh, maybe not so much. So find an area that makes sense for you. Once you've done that, the next step is to begin making a name for yourself there. So the goal is to establish yourself as the go-to real estate professional for the community. So how are some ways that you guys think we would do that?
You mean through marketing?
I was gonna say mailings and marketing.
Okay, what else?
A lot of times they have a central
Garage
post board,
sales.
so you can put your
Yard sales, central posting boards.
newsletters, blogs.
Yep,
I go to HOA meetings.
absolutely.
I've joined every neighborhood thing on Facebook.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the other one, social media Facebook groups that you can join.
Yeah.
Now, direct mail. So direct mail is one of the oldest and most effective methods to spread your message and to stay top of mind in your farm area. You should send mailers about just listed, just sold, seasonal tips, market reports, open house events, promotional letters to your absentee owners, things like that. All right, so how many of you guys think that direct mail is still an effective means of marketing?
It is, but it's not my favorite.
So it is, but anytime I talk to people, this is a response I get, right? So we're gonna do something here. I found this blog yesterday that I just happened to come across, and I really, really liked it. It's called 13 Reasons Why Direct Mail Isn't Dead. And this was just, let me zoom this in so you guys can kind of see it. Okay. In a world of all things digital, direct mail seems old and boring. And I'm not going to read all this to you, but there was something in here that I thought was fairly poignant. It said, direct mail is still, here we go, direct mail, there we go, is still effective, and using it as a game changer for any serious marketer. And here's 13 reasons why. Direct mail has a high return on investment. They've done a study that shows that direct mail has a median ROI of 29%. And it's third behind email and social media marketing. This really surprised me because I was kind of in the camp that said, I hate getting crap in the mail. So there's some caveats to this. And you go down, and I want to go through, there was a couple other things in here. The baffling ROI says nothing of a direct mail's response rate, which is 5.3% for mail sent to houses and 2.9% for prospect rates. So 5% response rate. We've talked about internet leads, right? Buying internet leads from Zillow. What is the conversion rate for those, or response rate?
Yeah.
Nationwide, it's about 2%. If this is truly getting 5.3, I'm more than doubling my response rate. Now, this is not specific just to real estate, but it does have a lot of real estate applications in here. When you compare that to email, which has an average click-through rate of 2 to 3%, that's about right. If somebody sends me marketing email, yeah, 1 in 20, 1 in 30, that's probably about what I'm going to read. And then a response rate, let's zoom this in a little bit more. A response rate, which is 0.6%. That's a response rate for email marketing. So, that's okay. So let's keep going. Direct mail works great with a digital marketing strategy. So, most marketers wouldn't just run Facebook ads and call it a day, right? So it says, while you shouldn't invest only in direct mail, you should consider it to be part of your marketing bag of tricks. This was my takeaway out of this whole long thing, and I can share the link with you guys. It shouldn't be your sole focus of marketing, but it really should be a part of it. There was a couple things at the bottom I want to scroll down. This was kind of cool. I was actually familiar with this. It said, how much is $20 worth? A night at the movies, a snazzy new shirt. All too quickly, their value is gone. When we spend only on ourselves, we do nothing, or we do ourselves wrong. Those $20 could mean so much more. A meal for the hungry, help for the poor, a tank of gas to bring someone home, a coat for a child to keep them out of the cold. But even more than that, $20 can show humanity's value, the worth of a soul. This holiday season, amidst goodies and play, take these $20 and give them away. Help someone in need, and you too will find the worth of $20 and the hope it provides. Now, this was actually a full campaign that they mailed out. I think it was in Texas or somewhere. You'd scan this QR code, and basically what it would do is it would show what you could do for $20. And somebody scanned the code, it took them to this video, and you can go through and watch it. It's a fairly short video, but it talks about what you could do with $20. So in the holiday season, everybody gets all absorbed with me, buy my stuff, get my kid, whatever. But this was saying, what if you took $20 and just put it out there, gave it to somebody in need, gave it to something, and just watch the impact that that $20 had. And it was kind of cool. And this whole thing went viral, even outside of the area where it was. They just were showing all this. So this person said, getting in the spirit, $20 gift cards to help VOAUT and SLC homeless teens support the cause, hashtag $20 or 20 helps. So what it was is they just went and bought $20 gift cards and then just gave them to people in need or whatever the case may be. But the point of this was, imagine this was your company. And all of a sudden you found this really cool piece of marketing that had a great call to action that just absolutely went viral. Well, now all of a sudden, hey, guess what? You think you're not going to be getting calls from people all over the place? that even if they're not interested in buying a home in your farm, they're familiar with you. There was another one that was down here. Oh, so this is the EDDM. We were going to talk about this real quick. If you go to USPS.com and you click up to the EDDM, which is the Every Door Direct Mail, you can put in an address and get that mail route. So what you would do is you would print marketing and you would just drop it off at the post office and they would deliver it to every home on that route. So you could pick an actual mail route in a community that might be, 280 homes or whatever. But this is a great way to be able to do this. So it's right on USPS.com. You can start by entering your city, state, zip code, Seattle, Washington. It gives you 5 zip codes. You could choose what you want. And then in here, it shows the 5 mail routes. So I could go in here and say, okay, well, in the 98105, this is the mail route around the University of Washington. Maybe I was looking for first-time home buyers. This would actually be a great mail route for me because all of these are college kids that are living in apartments or dorms or whatever that might be looking to buy their first home. So 98105, I could come over here. If I selected it, it would show me, let me scroll down, I'll show you. 3 routes were selected, 2 post office drop-offs, 2,370 addresses for a cost of $419. Now, this is not including your print cost. This is just your mailing cost. 2,370 is just too big. So maybe I would scale this down, and instead of doing both of these, I would only do this one. And then I could probably get it down under my 500 or whatever. Now, the cool thing with this is it's trackable. So there's no automatic way to track direct mail response rates, ROI, and general engagement. But you can track your results by using things like a phone number or a QR code or an email address or a website that is specific to this marketing. So go buy a vanity domain. You can get them for like $20 on GoDaddy. Find, GregSellsTrinity.com, just as an example. And what happens is on all your marketing, they get sent to that website. So how much of that marketing is leading them right to that source. And it creates a way that you could actually track them. This one, so again, allpropertysolutions.com. You would want to send them specifically to a domain that you could track what your click-through and response weight is. The other good thing, and I'm not sure I 100% buy into this, but it says direct mail is becoming less common. More and more people are going to electronic means. So we're not getting as much in the mail as we used to, right? So if it's novel, then there's some potentially good things about it. You're doing something that others aren't. If you were to Google how to send awesome direct mail, there's literally 6.5 million results, and there's probably more than that now, on different ways that you could do it. As I was going through, there was something down here that I thought was just really cool. Before I get there, handwrite your envelopes or your boxes, or use clear labels that look like they're handwritten. Because if people see something typed, they automatically assume that it's junk or, some company trying to solicit. When you see something with handwritten letter, handwritten address on the front, what do you immediately think?
Somebody sent it to you.
Yeah.
Card from grandma. In our brains, we are programmed to think that handwritten means somebody took the time to do this. I now feel obligated to open that because somebody took the time to actually handwrite. Nobody does that anymore, right? When I did my mailers, I actually went to Office Depot and bought multicolored envelopes. So I had blue and yellow and green. And so when you see a bright colored envelope in your mail, what color do all your bills come in? White. So if you see another white envelope, it could be a bill. I don't want to look at that. But if you have a blue envelope, what comes in blue envelopes? Nothing bad, right? Christmas cards from grandma, thinking of you cards, whatever. They all come in colored envelopes. There's a reason for that. It's a whole psychological process to it. So it's like getting a personal letter from a friend. How many of you guys have gotten a handwritten letter from anybody in the last 2 years? If you're my age or younger, you probably haven't. You'll get text messages, you'll get maybe phone calls. You're not getting handwritten letters. Nobody does that anymore. So if I've got something in my mailbox that has a handwritten address on it, I've got a much higher likelihood that I'm going to open it. So, but down here, direct mail's tangible. So you get a coupon in the mail for $10 off. Let's say, for example, this was, hey, a free home evaluation. Or, you know, whatever, something tangible. There has to be a tangible value to it. Now, $5 off a haircut. We've all seen those. 20% off contact lenses. And direct mail tends to get undivided attention. So 80% of direct mail recipients scan or read each piece before they throw anything away. Do you ever just take everything out of your mailbox and immediately throw it away? No, because there might be something good in there. So you're going to look at each piece to go, oh yeah, that's the electric bill. I need that. But you have to actually scan through all of it to determine whether or not it's something you need to keep. Direct mail increases your brand awareness. So again, we've talked about why it's important for your farm area to recognize your name. So sometimes even if they're not in the market to buy or sell right this minute, the fact that they keep seeing your name and your company name over and over and over, when they do get ready to make that decision, they go, oh yeah, that person that sends all the mailing, Greg with Florida Luxury, that's the guy I need. But what I really like, direct mails for all age groups. This guy's probably done a lot more research into it than I have, but I thought this was interesting. So this came from ADT, and it's a bit controversial in its execution, but I thought it was really cool. So a letter-sized card slides under the door of the house of the receiver, but the letter is carefully engineered to pop up into a box once it's under the door. And then the box reads, breaking into your apartment's easier than you think. And all of a sudden, people open the front door and holy crap, there's a box on the inside of my door. How did they get inside my apartment to put a box there? Well, it was ADT security. What do you think they did? They called and went, I need a home security system. It's novel marketing, but it's something totally different. Now, it's controversial because all these people are thinking that this ADT rep's breaking into their house, but, you know, it's kind of cool. So this is another one. It was a marketing piece that from a gem in Brazil, I think. But if you saw something that bright and it's kind of a notebook, do you think it's going to catch your attention? Of course it will. Now, of this list, there were two that were actually my favorite. This one, George Patterson Y&R in Melbourne sent out a cardboard box with 2 knobs on it and a bag of electronic components that included everything necessary to build an FM radio, except one thing, the instructions. So they go through and it went out to all the college engineering students. And when they put together the radio, it played an ad that put a student on a fast track to an electronics career in the military. You already know that if they had the skill set to be able to put this stuff together, they're your target audience, right? You send them to engineering students. They should be able to figure out how to put together an FM radio with a cardboard box. But it's totally novel. Because at this point, what have these kids, I say kids, these college students done? They've invested time into this. What the heck? You sent me a radio, but it doesn't work? Now I've got to figure out what it is. Because I'm an engineering student. Like, this is how my mind works, right? So they knew their target audience. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, that was kind of cool. Maybe I'm now going to call this company and figure out what they've got. Because now I'm a broke college kid and you can put me on a fast track to an electronics career. That's kind of cool. How much do you think it cost them to mail these little boxes to these students? Probably next to nothing, because you order all the parts, whatever. It's probably some other engineer that put all this crap together. But, you know, for a pretty inconsequential amount of money, they got a very cool response. If it was just a mailer that said, hey, we can fast track you. We know you're an engineering student. Why don't we fast track you to a career in the military? Do you think most of them would have given that a second look? Probably not. But now all of a sudden you've gone after, you understood your target audience, you gave them something novel, and now you gave them a reason to have a call to action. And this is the last one we'll look to. It's a Kit Kat mail. It says, sorry, we couldn't deliver. You handwrite the name, handwrite the address. It's a packet. And I couldn't leave it because it's too chunky for your letterbox. So to collect your free Kit Kat Chunky, bring it to this area, bring it to the store and pick it up. Marketing campaign. But if people are like, oh, that was kind of cool. Something different. Somebody went and stuck it to the door and said, oh, I couldn't stick it in your slot because it was too chunky. Go ahead.
Other than our open house or change of price in the back office, do we have marketing options back there?
Not for this kind of stuff. And it's something we've talked to Bill about and we're working on it. What we found was the majority of agents just weren't using any type of marketing. For something like this, you could actually do it in like Microsoft Publisher or something like that. I mean, you could put these together. You could find templates online too that you could change around. So there are a lot of ways out there, but no, in the back office, we don't have anything like this. So again, the direct mail piece acts as if you ordered a Kit Kat to your mailbox, but it was too chunky to arrive at your home. Although there are technically only two senses involved, sight and touch, this piece does a good job of trying to include taste by emphasizing the chunkiness of a Kit Kat. Not to mention it's fully interactive as you walk into the store. So these are the kinds of things. Oh, actually, I forgot about this one. Direct mail is memorable. So imagine putting together a radio delivered to your mailbox. Maybe you receive a box that reads, breaking into your house is easy. We talked about that. But this one, it's actually a record player out of cardboard. I don't know exactly how it works. It was something. But it comes in and you follow the instructions and put it together and it comes with a little, you know, it's not a 45. I don't remember what those are anymore. It's the little ones. And you could actually play it and it's probably a commercial of some sort that's pressed in vinyl. You know, now that vinyl is making a huge comeback, all these artists, you know, top 40 artists are putting all their things back into vinyl. You know, something like this might be a cool, you know, way to do it. And these are just different examples, but it's talking about the direct marketing and really how to make this work. Oops, I want to present show. There we go. So direct mail. So I tend to agree that if you're going to just send out, you know, an oversized jumbo card, you're probably not going to get great response. But think outside the box a little bit. Think about different ways that we could use direct mail to create some sort of traction. Now, how many times do I have to send mail before I can start seeing an impact? And this is real estate specific. If you mail one time a month, it's 18 to 24 months. If it's twice a month, it's 12 to 18 months. 3 times a month is 8 to 12, and 4 times a month or weekly is 6 to 8 months. Now, keep in mind, this is if mailing was all that you were doing. And I would never, ever, ever in a million years suggest that direct mail be your only strategy of farming. But it is telling because if I'm just sending direct mail, the idea is, and they say that people have to hear the same thing 4 to 7 times before they remember it, you know, or before they believe it. So if I'm sending it to you once a month and it gets tossed out for the first 6 or 8 months, you haven't really solidified yourself with them. Now, if it's 2, 3, 4 times a month, they're seeing it more regularly and you're kind of being implanted in there. But with this direct mail statistics, you want to understand that if this is your only strategy, it's a very long-term strategy. So I would never suggest that it be your only one.
That's a strategy.
It would be. Exactly. So what should I be sending? Send items that have a unique value or a specific call to action. Have some value to the action, a free home evaluation, a free consultation, you know, whatever it is. I forget who it was, some agent that I talked to about a year ago down in South Pinellas, they sent out a mailer that said, meet me for a free cup of coffee. And what they were doing is they were just getting face-to-face with people. And they're like, hey, I'll buy you a free cup of coffee if you'll give me 15 minutes to talk about real estate or, you know, whatever. And they had a really good result on it because people are like, sweet, free cup of coffee? Okay, you know, $6 at the Starbucks, why not? Because they wanted to know kind of what it was. It was something different. And then be unique. So if you're just sending out this oversized card that says, hey, house down the street just listed, there's value to that. But does that have a good call to action? No, it's just information. What we need some sort of hook to get them to call us and say, hey, I saw this, now, if then. I saw this, now I need what you have or what you're selling. Another way to do it is door hangers. Now, door hangers are actually a pretty cool, effective means, because what does it do? One, it gets you out in the community actually hanging door hangers. Just by virtue of walking through a neighborhood, you're going to see people walking dogs. Hey, how are you? I'm the real estate expert in this community, blah, blah, blah. It's just a way to have conversations with people. If they're not home, just leave it on the door. Now, unlike mail where they can just go in and throw it out, they actually have to take this off the door. And again, if somebody has taken the time to walk up to my door, I'm more likely to give them back my time to read what they left. Because it was an investment on their part, so now it requires a return investment on my part. That's kind of the idea. And then door knocking. This kind of goes hand in hand with it. Scott is a huge advocate of door knocking. When I was doing farming, this is not something I did, and I kind of wish now that I had. Because again, this is how you get to know people in your farm, especially if you live in the community. Now, a lot of people say, well, my community has a no solicitation rule. Okay, cool. I'm just knocking on your door to have a conversation with you. And this is kind of a foreign concept because we don't do it anymore. Like, we don't walk over and knock on our neighbor's door and go, hey, how are you? You want to sit down and have a cup of tea? We just don't do that anymore. So it's a very, I use the word archaic, but it's not the right word really. It's just a very old-fashioned way of doing things. Hey, I'm just knocking on the door. I am a real estate agent. I live in this neighborhood. I work in this neighborhood. I just want to get to know the neighbors. I just want to come in, say hi, introduce myself, and if there's anything I can do for you, here's my card. I'd love the opportunity. Have I tried to sell you anything? Nope. So did I solicit? Nope. I haven't broken any rules. I'm just introducing myself. If we ever get to the rules that you can't introduce yourself to neighbors, we got bigger problems. So give them an updated neighborhood market report or a handout with tips on home improvement. Always visit the expireds and the for sale by owners to let them get to know that you are the preferred agent in their community. You're just introducing yourself. So now I've knocked on the door. Hey, Mr. Seller, we just met last week. And then the next week a mailer comes in. Oh, I remember him. I met him when he came to the door. Do you think that mailer now has more purpose than just another piece of solicitation that came in the mail? Of course it does. So it's all a big piece of the pie that all these things come in together. The other one is host open houses. Hosting open houses in your farm is a way to invite the neighborhood or the neighborhood people to come meet you when they're ready to consider selling. So think about it. If you consistently saw homes for sale from one person, wouldn't that be the person you'd probably want to call? Unless, of course, I've made the argument to you that, oh, you don't want to call the person that has 14 listings because they're not properly incentivized, but if you're doing it well, you shouldn't have that issue. Now, do you have to have a listing in there to do the open house? No. When I was with Remax, I hated open houses. And I know I might get stoned for saying this out loud, but it's never been my thing. The thought of me sitting in a house for 4 hours on a Saturday just made me crazy. It was not what I wanted to do. So I would have agents because none of my agents wanted to do my open houses. So I had an agent that really worked that community a lot. She sat my open house. She worked for a completely different company. She sat my open house every single weekend. And I just said, if you pick up a buyer, sell mine first. And then if they don't want mine, sell them whatever. I don't care. But sell mine first. So you don't even have to be in the same company to be able to do an open house. But what it does is it solidifies you as the agent that's working in the community. Oh, Betty Realtor has this listing. Well, why isn't Betty sitting in the open house? Well, because I'm invested in the community. I'm here to work with you guys. She throws her sign in the yard, but I'm the one here working. You think it's not a way to poach listings later on? Most agents aren't even going to think about it. They're like, oh, cool, you want to do an open house? My seller will be thrilled. Go for it. All about solidifying the presence. The next thing is to visit other agents' open houses. Now, I stress this to every agent that I talk to. Have a good rapport with any agent that you work with, because real estate is a very, very small community. And I will tell you, there are agents that I will try to bend over backward to avoid ever having to show their listings. Unless my buyer absolutely goes, you know what? I have to see this house. I don't want to do it. Because I know that agent's reputation and I know the headache we're getting ourselves into. Now, flip that the other way. I tend to keep very good rapport with agents, even if, let's say we've got multiple offers that come in and we end up not taking this agent's offer. I still call them and go, hey, just wanted to let you know the seller decided to go with another option. But if something were to change, can I keep your number and call you back? Absolutely. Well, now that I've made that 30-second phone call, the next time that agent and I are on opposite sides of a deal again, they're going to go, oh, yeah, that was Greg. He was really professional. He was very nice. You know, even though we weren't able to put the deal together, he's still an agent I want to work with. And there have been instances where it was a multiple offer situation and the agent took my buyer's offer over the other, you know, if all things are equal, because they knew my reputation. They knew that I was the agent that was going to work to get deals done because we built that rapport on previous deals, even if we hadn't worked together on deals, just submitting offers or whatever. Build that rapport. Be the agent that's professional and courteous and, you know, actually works on weekends. I can't tell you how many times I've had buyers that fly in on Friday, fly out on Monday, and listing agent must accompany, and they don't work weekends. $1 million condos on the water, and the listing agent couldn't be bothered to get out of bed to come show a listing on a Saturday. Sorry, I don't do that. Well, does your seller realize that they have an agent that won't get out of bed for $1 million buyer to sell their property? You might be interested to know that. But again, keep good rapport. So go visit other agents' open houses. Get to know the other players in the community. Because here's what I had one time, and it was similar to your point. There was an agent in the community that I was farming, and she had 90% of the listings. I walked into one of her open houses one day, and she's like, hey, so I've been seeing your signs pop up around. Yep. I'm getting ready to retire. How about I refer you my business and you kick me a percentage back? I bought her business. You know how much it cost me?
Really?
What I did is I told her, I'm going to give you a 3-year payout. I'm going to give you a 30% referral for year 1, 20% referral on year 2, and a 10% referral on year 3. All I want you to do when somebody calls you is say, hey, my partner Greg handles that. Let me call you in on 3-way. She calls and goes, hey, Greg, I've got Mr. and Mrs. whatever on the phone. They're interested in listing their house. I told them you were the guy to talk to. Here you go. I will pay that referral all day long because what it does is it allows me to build those referrals. And those referrals become more referrals, which become more referrals, which become more business. I did not pay her a dime. Everything I paid her was a referral out of something that I wouldn't have gotten anyway. I bought her book of business for nothing. Sure, I'll give you 30%. Most agents are paying 20, 25. I will pay 30% for a referral all day long. Because that, for me, it's not one transaction. It's that one transaction plus everybody they know. That's the difference in working by referral. So visit other agents' open houses, build the rapport. Because you never know when those agents go, you know what? I'm done. I've had my run, you know, I'm whatever age, or I just went and took a job. You know, cool, keep your license active, put it in our referral department. Make sure you continue with your continuing education, but guess what? They don't keep up with their continuing education and their license goes involuntarily inactive. Guess what I have to pay them? I can't pay them. I can't pay you a referral. All you have to do is keep your license active. But most agents, once they get into the referral and they're in retirement mode, They just go, okay, it expires next March. Next April, they may still send me referrals. I can't pay them a referral now. Hey, reactivate your license. I'd be happy to pay you this referral. You know what? Forget it. It's not worth it. I don't care. Now I've got all your business. So it's just things like that. So get to know the other agents. Get to know the players in your farm. And then preview active homes. If you want to be the expert in your community, go preview the homes that are for sale in your community, in your farm. Because again, I want to be the expert. So I need to know everything that's on the market. So when I have a buyer that calls me, I can go, oh yeah, I walked through that. That's the one with the purple bedroom and the stone fireplace, right? Now all of a sudden I'm the expert. Oh, you know that house? Yep, I've been through that house already. I know exactly. What do you want to know? Oh, well, that's kind of cool. You really are the expert. Visit yard sales. And Mike, you touched on this earlier. Yard sales are a great way to just get to meet people because they're already standing in their driveway. They're already in the mood to talk to people because they know they're going to. If I'm standing out here, I'm going to talk to every person that walks up to look at all this crap that I didn't want that hopefully somebody else wants. But what happens at some of these yard sales is, oh yeah, we're thinking about selling the house. So we're just getting rid of some stuff. You know, we're going to be selling in the next 3 to 6 months. So we're just starting to clean out the garage, clean out the closets, kind of moving in that direction. Well, what is that? Free lead.
That plus you're gonna ask them, you know anybody else that's selling or buying?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I was talking to the neighbor and you know, the kids are graduating high school in June. So they're talking about wanting to downsize too.
If you come upon a yard sale and there's baseball cards, the first call you make is to Scott.
Right. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, yard sales, it's just a great way to go spend a couple hours in Saturday morning. Just drive around and see if there are any yard sales in your farm.
Do you advocate, I did a lot of this, getting to know the builders in the area,
Absolutely.
you know, to go and introduce yourself.
For sure.
To me, I picked up a lot out of that. And, you know, getting back to about the referrals, you know, I like it that people share stories because a lot of times new people in the business, it's just so hard for them a lot of times in the beginning. But I got a $11,000 referral fee.
Wow.
And I had no idea. I sold these people, they wanted to downsize. They lived in New Jersey.
Okay.
North New Jersey. And the house was $250,000 in South Carolina. And it was nice. And I said, she said, but we have to sell in New Jersey. And I said, okay, you know, I said, I'll call around. She said, we have it listed. So I called this girl, associated with the company that I was. It was Keller Williams at the time. And I told her where it was, and she didn't say anything. And she goes, are you sure they're in that neighborhood? I said, yes. So she listed their property. $826,000.
Yep.
And I got it at my office. The girl said, this is the biggest referral check I think I ever. And that girl sold the house.
Nice.
So, and I had just really down and kind of people.
You just never know.
So, so yeah, cultivating all of this.
Absolutely. The other good thing, and I'm glad you touched on that, throughout the state of Florida, we have agents now that we're adding in different areas. So if you guys ever say, hey, you know, I'm looking at Tampa Bay, but I'm also maybe looking at Miami, Orlando, Jacksonville, whatever, reach out because we're adding new agents in different parts of the states all the time. So we can have that. If you ever get in a scenario where you need a referral in another part of the country, I've got a couple of strategies that I've used that work with that as well. So, but yeah, visit yard sales. Just get to know. Any reason to have a conversation with somebody is a good reason to be out there. And then community involvement. This deals with if you're working the community that you personally live in, but even if you don't. One of the best ways to connect with people in your farm area is through local events and meetup groups. Focus on being social first and then doing business second, because it goes back to that know, like, and trust. Let's just get to know each other. I may not even mention on our first meeting that I'm a real estate agent. I probably will because I don't know how not to do it. But, you know, if we're just talking about kids and oh, that's the cutest dog, let's talk about your dog for a bit. And then we run into each other at Publix a week later. You're like, oh, hey, it's nice to see you again. And, you know, I've got a Florida Luxury hat on or something. Once they get to know you, they'll actually seek out your services. So church groups, fairs, charity events, bake sales, anywhere else the community gathers. Just put yourself in around all these people. So is it just about sending mailers? No. It's just, that's one piece of the pie to get to know your farm area. And then community publications. We talked on this, you know, in Trinity or Hudson, they all have community newsletters or community mailers that go out, things like that. Become an advertiser in the community newsletter. You know, it might be $50 for a little business card size thing on it, but what if you got one listing for that $50? Did you pay $50 for a listing? Absolutely. What if one listing became 4? Think that's $50 well spent? Absolutely. So local specific newsletters, community print publications are more likely read by the homeowners in the farm area. Advertising in these would keep you top of mind and show that you're being part of the community at a personal level while supporting it through your contribution of financially supporting their publication. So it's a great way to spend a few marketing dollars and connect with your farm. If you're looking at spending $1,000 a month on Zillow for a neighborhood, or you could do $150 a month in print and marketing and a little bit of your time investment, what do you guys think is going to have a better return for you? Absolutely. So just find ways to really plug in and become a part of it. And then social media groups, we talked about this as well. If that's your farm, try to join their Facebook community group. Sometimes it's residents only, and you may not be able to, but sometimes you can get one of the residents in there to invite you. And then, you know, they'll let you become a member because you were invited by a member. So just because actually I had a house in Moon Lake, and she wanted it advertised on the Moon Lake community page. I'm like, well, I don't live in Moon Lake. She's like, oh no, that's okay, I can invite you. So then she invited me, I made the post in there and picked up 4 buyers. Because it's like the 3rd Sunday of the month you can advertise your business listings. I put it out there and they're like, oh, I had no idea this house was for sale. And 2 of them ended up buying different properties. So I picked up 2 buyers completely free just by advertising the listing that I had in a community group. So it's just things like that sometimes, just getting in front of the right person at the right time. And then be featured in community websites. So Nextdoor, this is one, if you guys haven't gone on and haven't used, it's actually a really, really good kind of social media group. It's all neighborhood specific. So it's probably 1 or 2 neighborhoods that are grouped together in Nextdoor. So it's hyper local. And I've done advertising on Nextdoor where I was one of the 2 preferred agents. I've done it for about a year. It's like $100 a month. I haven't seen a lot of return from it, but I'm also not doing the mailers. I'm not doing the open houses. I'm not doing all the other things that I would really want to do to truly farm the community. If this was a piece of the puzzle for you, I'd say it would be a good one. If it's all you're doing, probably not so much. Do you guys have any questions about any of the strategies, any of the marketing, anything that you would?
Just one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned about the U.S. Post Office.
The EDDM?
Yes, for the mail route.
Right.
That would be, now would I have to contact that particular zip code? Like, for example, I there's particular areas I want snowbirds up north.
Right.
And I know a neighborhood like around Columbus, Ohio, one outside of Boston. So I would have to contact that.
The post office? Not necessarily. So if you had a printing company that was printing it, you can actually have it shipped directly to that post office, and then you order the EDDM for it, the Every Door Direct Marketing. And as soon as that arrives, they put it on, it's dedicated to that route. So basically you just say, hey, I've got 500 mailers coming, you know, from this company, whatever. As soon as they arrive, I want it for this route. They've already got it there that you've paid for that route. And as soon as it arrives, it goes out.
Our new printer actually does it for you.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah,
The
I just had a
APCO?
mailing go out, APCO.
Yeah.
They set up all the EDDM for you. You talk to the girl in the office.
Nice.
She's great.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's a way that you could do it.
okay.
And I don't know if everybody knows where APCO is. It's in the industrial park off of 54 now.
Oh, like 54 in Duck Slough? That industrial park?
Over where the Fire Artist is,
Oh, yeah.
Down there.
right
Yeah.
by Big Storm Brewery.
So between Duck Slough and Trinity Boulevard on the left-hand side, if you're going toward Odessa.
They're over there and they do our business cards and our
Nice.
signs and everything now.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen, we've got a couple of signs laying out here. They look really, really
New
good.
signs are really nice.
Yep. Any other questions about farming? Setting up a farm? No? All right. So here's just a couple extra tips that I'll leave you with. Use magnetic vehicle signs. So as you're driving through the community, they go, oh yeah, that's Greg with Florida Luxury Realty. You know, when you pull up to an open house, they see that you're a realtor and they're like, oh, I want to talk to them. Keep a list of available homes and their showing instructions. Keep them in a little binder. So that way, if you're talking to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I saw that the new house went up around the corner. Oh yeah, that one's 123 Main Street. It's a 3-2, 2,100 square feet. It's listed for this. And have your showing instructions on there. Oh, is that something you'd like to take a look at? Well, it says that I need 24-hour notice. Would tomorrow at 3 o'clock be good? Let me call the agent and schedule that showing. By having those, again, you position yourself as the expert. Create an email list and send emails. So as you're talking to people, hey, if you don't mind, give me your email and I'll send you this information. And then just send them out regular emails to stay top of mind. And then handout should always include your business profile, your name, your company name, your cell phone number, your email address, your website, whatever that is. And then be extraordinary. A successful farm agent will have more seller side transactions than buyer side transactions. Because if you are really doing it well, you're going to get those listings. And then by virtue of having the listings, you'll pick up buyers. So the expression is list to last. So listing agents, if you can keep listings going, you will have a constant stream of buyers. So.
Hey, Greg, I'd add one thing to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've had a lot of people working with me lately by giving them my app.
You're absolutely right.
And
Thank you.
There's 3 guys right now that I'm in contact with that are using my app.
Yep.
Instead of me having to go show them homes, they're looking up the homes now and getting all the MLS information.
And then
right
deciding if they want to see it.
app.
You're absolutely right. That's a huge tool that would be great. So as you're out, hey, can I send you my app? You know, what's your cell phone number? I'll just text you my app.
Yep.
Get their name, get their cell phone number. That's easy. Do this every time your listing is sold. So a week after closing, take a housewarming gift to the buyer. Be sure to ask them if they have any questions about the home and be sure to ask them to recommend you and then give them business cards. So just follow up with them. And we talked about this a lot in the working by referral class, is you have to change how you view people. So a lot of agents look at each client as a transaction. Once I finish this transaction with you, we may never speak again, right? Well, for me, I want this to be an ongoing relationship because I want every referral. Now that you bought the house and you get to know the neighbors, oh, you're thinking about selling? Greg was my agent. He was fantastic. He's the one you need to call. That's the kind of thing. But if they haven't talked to me in a year, do you think they're highly motivated to recommend me? Probably not. So when is the perfect time to implement the strategies? Yesterday. So, and thank you guys for participating. If you have any questions or anything else, certainly let me know. I am more than happy to help.